Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at the PGYTECH Roller Backpack. Now on this channel so far, I've only done like smaller EDC styled bags, but as I mentioned before, I am coming at all of this from the perspective of a photographer and videographer. So I figured what could not be more important for a photographer and videographer as an EDC bag than an EDC bag that can carry all of your gear, either to a photo shoot or on a trip. So I've taken this on a couple trips with me, one just being clothing and then one being a work trip where I packed it out with a ton of gear. So I've got some thoughts on it. What I'm gonna do is do an overview of the features of the bag, and then put some stuff in it, get some measurements so that way you have a good understanding of what can fit in here, then give you my final thoughts. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into it. On this front panel, you just have one pocket, and it's a big open pocket. This goes maybe about halfway, and there's no organization inside, only just a key leash. Inside of this section, you do get the expansion with the zipper here on the side, and that opens up completely all the way around to expand this out. And then you have another interior zipper here that opens. Now inside of here, it's just a big open area. There is one stretchy sleeve here. And then on this side, you do have one meshy pocket here. Again, just big and open, no organization inside. This actually works out really nicely for some additional clothing, maybe some bigger items, like they're kind of pitching it as a place to put a gimbal. So I think it does work well for that. The only thing that I would say about this pocket, this is a similar idea to the Peter McKinnon 35 liter backpack. Something that I do like about that bag is the additional mesh pockets here and organization that they provide on this panel. I think that's just like a nice to have thing. You know, like those extra mesh pockets in there were nice for like smaller things, socks and stuff like that. So there's nothing like that to be found here. This is really just going to be primarily for bigger items, or you know, you could put an extra pack in here if you wanted to. As far as depth, you know, we're talking maybe 2 to 3 inches of additional depth, probably more closer to 3 inches of additional depth. So it is giving you quite a bit of extra expansion. Okay, so on the sides, we have 2 big pockets meant for like tripods and water bottles and things like that. Inside of each pocket, you have this leash that hooks on to a little anchor point here. And what this is meant for is if you're putting like a tripod in here and you just want to use this just to like lock it down a little bit more so it's secure. They also have this extra bag, this extra little pouch, which is really, really nice, that they seem to be intending to go into one of these pockets. It does fit perfectly in there. And you can either lock this down with one of the included straps. They do give you like 2 of these lash straps that you can maybe hook onto here and then hook onto here, so that way it just clips it in, makes it a little bit more secure. Or they have their version of Peak Design's like quick release system, so that way if you wanted to, you could use this as like a wrist strap and hold on to it that way. Let me just show you the other side. Same kind of thing, leash strap, big open pocket, and then another anchor point here. On this side, we do have a handle, so that's really nice. I do wish that there was a handle on this side, but there's nothing like that Or at the very least, I wish they would have put maybe another anchor point right here. So that way, if you wanted to, you could maybe clip this on like this and provide yourself another handle. I just kind of found that, you know, jumping in and out of an Uber or something like that, or putting this into like an overhead compartment for flying, you don't always get to position it perfectly where this is going to be accessible to you, especially if you're in a hurry. You know, you're trying to get out of the way. You're trying to just stow away your bag and get into your vehicle, or get into your seat. So it would have been really nice to have some kind of a handle here, but what they do have is just some branding. Maybe a version 2 would be nice to have another handle right here. On the top, we have another handle, and this is really sturdy. It's just fabric. There's no like plastic reinforcement or anything like that. But I found it works really, really well. I don't think any additional support is needed here. Like, I think the material feels really nice. It's a seatbelt style material. There is a little bit of padding in there, and it feels really secure. It feels really, really good. So I'm happy with that. And I'll also mention that there are 4 more anchor points here. So that way, if you wanted to lay a tripod like across this way, you could use those straps that they include to lock it down there. Okay, on the back panel, there's no organization here. What this is meant for is to turn it into backpack mode. And you do get a little bit of a clip right there that just holds that down in place. And then the straps are able to pop out just like that. There is a sternum strap, which you can adjust up and down, whatever is comfortable for you. And one thing I was concerned about was the panel here being against your back, you know, whether it would become uncomfortable over time. This is a really thick padded material here. And for me personally, I mean, I didn't have this on my back for an extended period of time, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. This actually didn't feel bad for me. The padding up against your back actually seems to provide like a little bit of support, where it's helping to, you know, if this is your back here, it's helping to lift the bottom part of the backpack a little bit. So I didn't find any problem with comfort in here. And then as far as the straps, these are really big, thickly padded, nicely meshed straps. If this was filled to the brim with gear, I wouldn't, me personally, I'm not a big guy, so I wouldn't want to have this bag just sitting on my back for 30 minutes, an hour, a couple of hours. But for the limited time that I did have it on, the straps did feel comfortable. They seem to distribute the weight pretty well, so no complaints there. I think PGYTECH did a good job with that. And an additional feature is if you do have this on your back and you've still got the wheels on, they have these little covers where you can pull those out, and then you're not getting clothing dirty. So that's a nice little feature. Yeah, I love that PGYTECH really seems to think through a lot of details about stuff. So that's really good. The only thing that I would want different from this back area, because what's in here is we do have the handle that lives in here, and we do have the straps. Other than that, you know, there's no organization inside, there's no pockets or anything like that. So it is quite a lot of space. And this is like 2 to 3 inches deep. It is quite a lot of space to only have it be available for straps. I kind of wish there was maybe another, like a center row of pockets here, just small mesh pockets that you could just put some smaller items into. It's only meant for the straps and the handle. Okay, so I'm gonna get to the bottom here. There's actually quite a bit going on down here at the bottom. So we do have removable wheels. What you do is you push on this tab here, and then that releases the wheel. So if you're ever concerned about fitting into an overhead bin, taking out these wheels, and we got maybe like 2.5 inches of height. So If you're dealing with like a really small bin, this does give you a little bit more. So far, I've only flown on American, and I had no problem just leaving the wheels on. There is this included extra bag that they provide to stow the wheels into. So I've seen people say like, hey, I just pop the wheels off right before I'm about to get on a plane, put it into the little bag, put it into the bag itself, and then I just wear it as a backpack. So that's all really great. I love that feature. And I will say that the wheels are very smooth. They roll really, really nicely. I mean, you can see here, this is laminate floor, but I mean, I think that's great. I don't have a ton of experience with like really high-end luggage, but I can say that this is definitely above average when it comes to wheels. There is one downside to it. I would say maybe the wheels roll a little too easily. There were times, just like standing around at an airport, the ground wasn't 100% level, and I just have the bag just standing there, and then I could see it just kind of slowly starting to drift away, just because these wheels roll so nicely. Getting the wheels off is pretty easy, but I have to say that getting the wheels back on can be a little bit cumbersome. The reason for that is, I don't know if you can see this, but on this side, it's completely flat. So there is a very specific way that this wheel has to go in. And if you don't have it exactly right, there's no way to like turn it inside. And you've really got to do this thing where you're maybe holding it in place with your finger, and then you're putting it down at the right angle. And here's the next part that is also a little cumbersome. This does not just clip in. In order to get the wheel in, you do have to hit that switch, push it down, and then it will go in. Again, because this spins around, there's no way for me to like hold it where the angle that it needs to be. Maybe in a version 2 of the bag, it would be nice to maybe see a different way where they can automatically clip in, or maybe there isn't a flat side, so it's just round, so that way it doesn't matter what angle you put it at. Or maybe there's a way to like lock it where if it's in your hand, there's only one way for it to go in. It doesn't matter how you're holding it. Whatever that is, again, it's not like a huge deal, but it is just like a minor annoyance getting these wheels back in. Last thing here for the exterior is the handle. And this back panel is, like I showed you earlier, where the handle exists. And it does have a couple of different levels of extension. As far as handles go, I think it is, again, like the wheels, definitely above average for like just your typical luggage. I can't tell you that this is like the most high-end handle that I've ever felt. Like I said, I'm just not familiar with really high-end luggage. But I would say that this does feel really good. And in terms of like jostling around it and stability, I would say it is fairly stable. This is definitely not like cheap feeling. Maybe not the best. Like I said, it's above average, I would say. And it does telescope in and out fairly easily. The only downside that I could see about this, and this is in order to accommodate the backpack feature, is that it is the width of the bag, right? So what that means is if you have a bag that you would like to sit on top, and you like to put it through the luggage pass-through, this luggage handle is at least 13 inches, maybe a little bit more. So if you have a bag that you really like for it to just sit on top of your roller and you use the luggage pass-through on it, it's gonna have to fit into a 13-inch wide handle here. So that might be a big downside. And then that does just kind of store away. You almost wouldn't know it was there. So that pretty much takes care of everything of the exterior. Let's now get into the interior of the bag. So this does open clamshell style. And inside you just have a bunch of fully customizable dividers, and this all feels really nice. This all feels really high quality. So you can completely take this out where there's nothing inside. It's just a big open cavity. And I definitely did do that for just packing clothing, and it worked great for that. On this panel, again, there's no organization, just the laptop pocket. There's actually 2 laptop pockets here, technically. This main one, I mean, I was able to fit a 16-inch MacBook Pro, no problem at all. The second one goes down to about here. So let's get a measurement there. We're talking maybe 14 inches. And the width, 11.5, about in there. So, I mean, you could probably get another laptop in here. You can get any kind of additional tablet that you might have that would fit in there, no problem. You do have a Velcro strap here just for additional security. Now, something that is kind of interesting is you do have a leash here that attaches, and the purpose of it is so that way your bag doesn't come open, your laptop just doesn't fall out onto the floor. I like it in theory, but I would say that the zippers are really, really stable. So these zippers are pretty stable. You know, anytime I was getting a laptop out, you know, I just zipped them down about a quarter of the way, and I didn't have any fear that this was just going to suddenly fly open. And you can see I'm yanking on it fairly vigorously here. These aren't just going to fly open. So for me, I can't really imagine a scenario where I would purposefully zip these all the way down, and I needed that extra protection there, you know, like as an oops. I mean, I think for me, I would have much rather seen these straps be longer, or maybe be customizable where I could make it longer, because I think I would personally get a little bit more usage out of being able to just hold this panel in place. As it is right now, it just kind of flops down. So there's nothing that can hold it. As far as interior depth, there is a little bit of a slope. So the depth is a little different at the top than it is at the bottom. But we're talking 6 inches. And back maybe a little bit more, 6.5. And then on the front, maybe about 5 inches. And again, this is fully customizable, but the way that they have this intended is you have a large camera body that you just stick in here. This is a S5 2X with a 70-200, and it fits beautifully in there. And I can show you just like another prime lens here, which is about 4 inches high. Again, this area is about 6 inches tall, so it fits perfectly in there. I was even able to get 2 lenses just sitting right on top of each other, just like that. So there is a lot of flexibility in here, and then maybe like a divide, or the PGYTECH tech pouch goes into there. You know, second camera body. Yeah, there's just a lot of possibility here for the way that you could potentially pack this out. And I'll also mention that here at the bottom, there is like some extra space down here. So we're talking maybe like another 1.5 inches, where, you know, if you have like a bunch of batteries or something stacked up, you know, this kind of fits underneath here. So here's the DJI wireless mic system. It can be a little cumbersome getting to it. You know, if you really got this packed out, where you've got things stacked here and then you've got something here, the only way that you're going to get to that is to take this thing out and then to reach in and grab this. So not a huge deal. I think This is going into the cavity well of the wheels, so I understand why it's there, and I'm fine with it being there, even though it is a little cumbersome to get stuff out of. You know, I'd rather have the option to put something here than not. Okay, so that is really the interior of the bag. As you can see, there's no organization here. You know, if you've got some additional smaller items, like maybe a power bank and then just like the little random bits and bobs that we tend to take with us. Like on the Peter McKinnon backpack, there are some mesh pockets here, and they opted to not do that. And I get why. They seems like they don't want to interfere with this area here. But again, just like with this area here, I would have rather just had the option and, you know, let me kind of decide what I want to give and take. The additional pouch that they include is really nice, but it's very easy to fill this completely. And there isn't a lot of depth to it. So if you start putting batteries in here and maybe like SSDs and some power banks, this can get filled out really, really fast. So besides that, there's really nowhere to put like extra little smaller pieces. And that kind of goes the same for the exterior. There's, again, no like quick access to something. You do have this pocket here, as I showed you earlier, but this is just a big open pocket, and you could put another pouch in there, and we're talking 10 inches, maybe 11, where you could put another pouch. But then you're putting pouches inside of pouches. You know, if I've got this in here, I don't want to have to like take this out and then unzip it, and then maybe I need to unzip again, and then I get to the thing that I need. It would have been nice to have just like a quick access organization somewhere where there's just a few items, few small items that I might need. Or, you know, if I'm on a video shoot, you know, I've got somewhere for little bits and pieces, again, hard drives or cables, where I can just keep that stuff organized without having to get another pouch. Let me give some final thoughts on this. Before this bag, I was using a Nanook 935, and that was a great case. It was very protective, maybe a little overprotective, but it was also really heavy, a little cumbersome because it only rolled this way. You know, there were no rolling wheels here. And this bag actually fits way more than the Nanook does, especially if you add in the additional expansion. There are some other bags coming onto the market. Recently, the Peak Design roller, that one is $600-ish, just the bag by itself. Then if you add the camera cube, which really, if you're a photographer, you're wanting that case, you want the divider too. Now you're looking at $750-ish. That is a lot. That is quite a bit. This PGYTECH bag comes in at around $330. That is quite a deal considering everything that you're getting. The quality of the materials, I didn't even talk about really the exterior, which is like the same kind of material that they use in a lot of their bags. It's this nylon coated material with a little bit of tactility to it. It's really nice. Like all the straps and the extra pouch that you get. I mean, another company, just to include this little pouch, probably would have charged you an extra $100. The value that you're getting from this is incredible. And again, the quality of it is really great. The wheels and everything just being able to slide around, roll around really easily, you know, that's really great. And the amount of storage that you're getting with this. 2 camera bodies, 70 to 200, 4 additional prime lenses, a tech pouch, batteries. I had large like V-mount batteries that were sitting here in the bottom, batteries for a gimbal, the gimbal itself, like in this front expansion, there was pretty much nothing I couldn't fit for me and the kind of stuff that I bring. I think if you are looking for a bag that can hold a lot of photography gear, do it for a really good price and provide you a lot of flexibility, and it's going to be really hard to beat this PGYTECH bag. If you're looking for more of just a plain piece of luggage, you know, you're not a videographer or photographer, you know, it can do that, but there's probably some better options out there. Again, just because it lacks some smaller mesh pockets for internal organization, although you can make it work for that. All right, well, that's gonna be it for me. If you have any questions about the bag, or maybe if there's a measurement that I missed that you're curious about, leave a question or comment below. Thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one.